Hey y'all, welcome back to Bourbon on the Brain. Today we're going to be reviewing Barrel Batch number 26, Barrel Craft Spirits. So if you've been around my Instagram page for a while, you probably know I'm a pretty big fan of Barrel. They really just put out a quality product. They kind of fall in that not quite craft distillery. They're a little bit bigger than that, but not as big as some of the real Goliaths of industry in the whiskey world. And honestly, I really enjoy their product. Everything they put out is quality. Um, if you know, I constantly say this because I do fully endorse them in terms of their quality. I have no relationship with Barrel, hoping that one day they'll say, oh, let's have a relationship. But in no way do I have a relationship with them. But I enjoy the quality that they put out. So this was from their vault release. I picked up two. I picked up batch number 20 and batch number 26. This is batch number 26. I believe this is 112 proof. 112.64. And so I'll give you some of their tasting notes that they have on their website, as I like to do in some of these reviews, and then compare them to what I think. Because everybody's got a little bit of a different opinion. So the thing that they say, and I'll read it to you from their website, the appearance is a pumpkin pie, which is an interesting description. I wouldn't say it's wrong. It's just interesting. So nose, they say immediately bright and fruity, smelling of white peach, creamy coconut, and prickly rhubarb, followed by dried or cooked fruits, among them golden raisins, candied grapefruit peel, roasted red pepper. Pungent florals are intermixed, notably rosehip and meadowsweet. As one's nose adjusts, richer, sweeter notes of beeswax, toasted almond, and tiramisu arrive. They sit atop a dusting of allspice, spearmint, ginger ale, and charcoal. Quite a complex description, to say the least. Most people are never going to get all of those flavors from just nosing. So kudos to their master taster, because that is quite a complex description. That being said, though, it is quite a complex nose. Just in two different whiffs right off the bat, I get sort of an oaky, burny nose that you get from a traditional high proof bourbon. But that second nose is really quite sweet. Almost like almost like sniffing frosting on a cake, which is not quite a very good description, but I would definitely say I get some of those complex notes that you would get from like sniffing tiramisu. That is definitely a fair description and flavor profile in there. So let me give you some of the palate notes. So a bit brash, but well balanced with only modest tannins. Initially, the flavor is dark and complex on molasses, black cherry soda, and root beer barrel candy. The palate is rounded out by slate, salt, green apple, and a little horseradish. So traditionally, bourbon has flavor profiles of oak, something sweet like caramel, butterscotch. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of cinnamon. You get vanilla flavors. Those are traditional bourbon flavor notes, maybe a little chocolate. When you start really getting into some of the barrel finishes, you get things that are completely off the wall. Green apple, orange, baking spice, things like, as an example, black cherry soda. I mean, the amount of work that goes into crafting these bourbons, as well as just being able to identify the flavors. Traditionally, when you're crafting a bourbon, you taste and decipher the flavors based off of how it tastes. Very few times do you go into it with an intention of, these are the flavor profiles that I want. Let's go craft a bourbon to fit these flavor profiles. And so it makes the work a little bit more difficult, but all the more rewarding. So let's give it a taste and see what we're working with here. So as with all barrel spirits, particularly their bourbons, You get a little bit of a burn. They're typically all relatively high proof, and it's something that I personally enjoy. It's not for everybody, but I personally enjoy it. And one of the things that I really enjoy about these is the complexity of the taste. So one thing that they didn't mention here is sort of like a honeysuckle, um, and like a wildflower kind of taste. And I get a very pleasant sort of honeysuckle taste that like is sitting on my tongue right now as the finish uh, goes down my throat. And it's really quite pleasant and thoroughly enjoyable. Typically, in order to get a honey tasting note, you have to have a much lower proof in order for it to really come through and taste like honey. Uh, so having that very pleasant burn as well as the honeysuckle tasting note is, for me, thoroughly enjoyable. And I really do enjoy this bourbon. Now, to tell you how they discuss the finish, um, their finish is advances the cooked fruit theme put forth by the nose, cycling through candied grapefruit peels, grape jam, cardamom, and allspice. It fades with a mineral tingle of iron and wood smoke. So let's put that aside for a second, because while that description is probably very apt, um, I don't get a lot of that. What I personally get is oak on the finish, but the finish itself is very long. It's very almost, the word that I would use to describe it is rewarding. So, and it's hard to put that into words exactly what it is, but as I'm tasting it, it almost makes me think back on, various memories, and I can't really describe to you how, but it makes me reflect almost, and I really enjoy that. Certain smells, certain drinks, certain foods will make you kind of look back on your memories, and this is one of those. It kind of takes me back a little bit, and it's got a very long finish. I can still feel it a little bit in my chest right here, which I enjoy. Um, but I do get a little bit of the wood. It's a very oaky up front, but you get a lot of those flavors kind of fading in the background. And so the finish for me on the tongue will continue to be that wildflower and honeysuckle with a little bit of that oak that I enjoy. It is very complex. As you can tell by their tasting notes, it is quite complex. I cannot pull all those flavors from it on one drink. I'd have to go back and drink this multiple times in order to thoroughly express all of the tasting notes that are in it. And even just nosing it a second time here, I can taste in my mouth through my nose different tasting notes. And really, that's not what this review is about. I could sit and list all the things that I'm starting to detect in this, but the thing that is important for me in these reviews is to review the bourbon for what I think it's worth. And Barrell does something really interesting with their vault releases, which is they make things available at their MSRP. It's one of the few distilleries that you can buy directly from them in Kentucky, which, again, huge pro for me. Living in California, it's hard for me to get my hands on some of the rare bourbons without going either to auction sites or paying triple, quadruple, 10 times the amount that they're actually available in Kentucky for. So huge shout out to them for just really doing the right thing, in my opinion. So this was a $90 bottle. The reality is all of their bottles are $90 with the exception of some of their limited releases. And to me, that is a perfect amount of money to pay for this bottle. Barrell continues to be unique in the way that it releases batch after batch after batch after batch. But they're all different. They all have different flavor profiles. They all have different tasting notes, and they're all thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyable in their own unique way. And to me, that is what is important when you're spending that kind of money on a bottle of bourbon. Is this something that you will drink and enjoy consistently, no matter the occasion? The answer is yes. This is something that will be drunk. This is something that will be enjoyed. This is something that I have no problem pulling out when I have a bunch of friends over. I have no problem pulling out when it's just me after a hard day of work. I have no problem pulling it out if I'm sitting by the pool or I'm sitting by a campfire. It's just one of those bourbons, and I continue to say this about Barrell in general. because it's how they craft. You can almost taste the care that goes into the individual bottle itself. And there's other distilleries that I feel that way about. I just so happen to be saying that specifically about Barrell. But with them, you can taste the almost familial influence on their bourbon. And so for me, that means a lot. Just the care that goes into it. So I would definitely recommend it. Please give it a try if you can get your hands on it. It's obviously not honey finished, but I definitely get those honey notes. So give it a try. As always, I'm always open to feedback. I'm always open to difference of opinions, agreement of opinions. With this kind of thing, anybody can have an opinion on it because tasting notes are subjective. There's no right or wrong answer. So let me know what you think. And as always, enjoy and remember, drink safely.